history has a way of repeating itself. So we're reliving, as a Muslim community in America, or in the West in general, because this is true in the UK and it's also true in Canada, the Inquisition. That's happened. For all intents and purposes, I can talk about my brother's case, very simply put. Actually, we're not from Brooklyn, we're from Queens. So, strong distinction. So I'm 31 years old. I've been in this country since 1983. That's about 26 years now. I grew up here, I grew up in Flushing. And so did my brother. He grew up here as well. We attended public schools in New York City. And my brother graduated from Brooklyn College. He went to Stony Brook first, graduated from Brooklyn College. Then in 2003, he went on to do his master's at London Metropolitan University. My brother was an activist in the Muslim community. So you could categorize him as radical. He was outspoken against the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq. He promoted the Islamic ideology, the Islamic belief, the Islamic faith at every venue that he could get a chance. He spoke at universities, quoted in Time magazine in 2002, calling U.S. foreign policy terrorist foreign policy. So this is who he was. And he took every opportunity to, go to Times Square and hold booths and stalls. So, we figured, okay, yeah, let us see how this freedom of speech thing works out in this country. So the results are the following. When he was in England, they said an acquaintance of his stayed in 2004 at his apartment for a period of 2 weeks. The acquaintance stayed and had ponchos and socks in his luggage, used his cell phone. In 2004, this acquaintance left. He left England. He was also an American citizen. And 3 months later, he showed up to New York. He immediately gets arrested in New York. And my brother's case is called the cooperating witness paradigm, because this is someone that gets arrested and goes into an immediate agreement with the government. He goes into an immediate agreement with the government. He waives his Miranda rights. The article I read from some newspaper, it's on our website, says they took him to the Embassy Suites in the downtown hotel in New York. This guy named Junaid Babar. For a week, he waived his Miranda rights and said, okay, who do you want me to point to? Basically, in 2004, in April 2004, a slew of people around the world get arrested. About 8 people get arrested in England. 1 person gets arrested in Canada. I don't know how many people get arrested in Pakistan. My brother does not get arrested in 2004. So when this guy makes his initial, pointing out to different people, a slew of people get arrested. 2004 to 2006, these people that got arrested had trials coming up. My brother still is not arrested. In 2006, a full 2 years later, they arrest my brother at the airport on an indictment in June. The indictment came down in May 2006, and they arrested him in June 2006, basically saying, okay, this guy says he stayed with you and he had ponchos and socks, which he eventually delivered to Al-Qaeda. He was facing a 70-year sentence himself, and because he went to this cooperating witness agreement, from accounts that he had given in trial testimony, he feels he's going to be set free soon. My brother faces a 4-count indictment. I mean, he's like, we'll throw this thing at you, throw a thing. The laws, the material support laws, are very vague. If you give your nail clippings to a terrorist organization and they decide to use it for terrorist purposes, that's material support to terrorism. These were new laws that were kind of crafted out and have been applied, basically Muslims in the past 8-9 years. My brother's material support is allowing, the accusation is allowing this person to say who in his luggage had ponchos and socks. Not that my brother had ponchos and socks. So he's arrested and he's in Belmarsh prison in England, which is like one of the most notorious, from the IRA days, one of the most notorious prisons in England. And he spends a year in Belmarsh prison fighting his extradition. And a lot of stuff came out from this. This person, talked and talked and talked. The cooperating witness, Junaid Babar, talked and talked. And, at certain points he goes, well, Fahad's not part of anything. He's not. These are, statements in his own affidavits. The U.S. attorney here, the assistant U.S. attorney here for the case, files an affidavit or two where, just to give you an understanding, in his affidavit, his name is Brendan McGuire, he says that my brother is a Sufi Arab. And that was his, by the description of my brother. We're from Pakistan, so we're not Arabs. A Sufi is a whirling dervish in Turkey. So, you know, he might have meant other things, but, you know, $80 million worth of funding, NYU law education, he has NYU law education. He's the son of the former police commissioner, he didn't understand that. So this was the affidavit filed. And for after a year, my brother gets extradited and sent to America. And in America, he had his bail hearing. And his bail hearing, you know, it kind of came out. It came out that the prosecution, my brother has never been arrested in his life. He has a bachelor's in political science, a master's in international relations. He's very, you know, very well loved in his community. Somebody offered a $500,000 bail, his house, for my brother's bail. The judge, the prosecution goes, well, we can't give him bail. He doesn't respect American law and order. He thinks Allah's law is superior than American law. And this was a reason that the prosecution put up for denying him bail. And the judge said, wink, wink, hint, hint, yeah, you know, I'll let him believe what he wants, but you know, how could he respect American law and order? Has he ever committed a crime in his life? Never. Has he ever been arrested? Never. You know? So when they arrested him, they put him straight into solitary confinement. And he was in solitary confinement, normal solitary confinement, for the first 3 months. And then special administrative measures, which have been renewed. Special administrative measures were passed by Michael Mukasey and have been renewed by Eric Holder. So if anybody has hope for the new administration, they're just more sophisticated and eloquent than the previous administration. These special administrative measures are ways to hold my brother. So he's a person presumed innocent. But if you're a Muslim man in America charged with a crime, you know, the presumption of innocence is almost thrown out. I mean, it's thrown out the window. It's not almost thrown, it's thrown out the window. You know, you're innocent until proven Muslim, basically. His conditions are, he's in complete solitary confinement. He has been for 2.5 years, straight. We've filed motions. We've said, you know, we've got a psychiatrist say this is torture. I'll get to what the judge said about all this. He gets very limited reading material. It has to be 30 days old. He gets family visits once every 2 weeks, when the government doesn't turn us away at the door. So he's about, you know, I'd say about 33% to 40% of his family visits to a month have been turned away. He's not allowed to move in his cell in ways they deem inappropriate, because his cell is being monitored at all times. He's not allowed to take a shower by closing the curtains. He's not allowed to talk out loud in his own cell because they have electronic monitor. These are all in the SAMs that they have written for my brother. So this is how they've held my brother. So I don't, if this is not torture, I don't know what is. And so these are his current circumstances. They produced an NYPD radicalization report where my brother is the major case study as a person radicalized. This is two pseudo-social scientists from the New York Police Department Joint Terrorism Task Force produced a report saying, well, he's the prime example of a person radicalized. And you know, this report is very, very, how do you say, prejudicial in nature. It says if a Muslim gives up smoking or grows a beard, these are signs of radicalization. So we're going back to this, who defines what's radical? That speaker is radical. That book is radical. Who defines it? Well, apparently the NYPD Joint Terrorism Task Force, the Department of Justice is defining what's radical. Well, this person, this major, listened to this speaker, and this speaker, you know, talked radically. Well, you know, what is it that people say is radical? Opposition to the war in Afghanistan seems pretty radical to them. You know, basic human rights is pretty, you know, radical to them. So I put out there, who's the radical? Is it more radical to treat a human being like an animal? Because they, you know, if human beings don't get treated with solitary confinement. That's the absolute worst punishment you could give them. You know, if you wanted to treat him like that, you should send him to a zoo. But they didn't. They kept him here in Lower Manhattan, where he has been for 2.5 years. And with the grace of God, alhamdulillah, with the support of God, we have a lot of support from various communities, various people, and we're very appreciative of it. People of conscience are supporting us. Theaters Against War, the Center for Constitutional Rights is coming on board to support us a bit more. A variety of people in our own community. We live in a stigmatized and feared fearful community. Do you understand how bad it has been for Muslims in America? Every case, 6 Muslims in North Carolina, 3 of them are white, 15 Muslims, Somalian Muslims in Minneapolis, so the media constantly plays out and covers the color spectrum of Muslims, and what happens? Well, I went back first. There's a cooperating witness paradigm. Other paradigms are agent provocateurs in mosques that exist rampant throughout mosques. Cases of entrapment that exist rampant. And this is the reality for our community. This is what's going on with us. It's a daily thing. It's it's constantly repeated through the media. These cases are brought up. Many cases are entrapment cases, cases that involve provocateurs. And so at the end of this, what can I say? I can say we don't have any hope in the system whatsoever. None whatsoever. But we do have hope in our faith and in our efforts that hopefully it will be fruitful. We have done something a bit different for our case because people have heard of our case. Many cases they haven't heard of. If you want, you can go to freefahad.com, F-A-H-A-D, and you can watch the documentary video where Michael Ratner speaks about our case and Professor Corey Robbins speaks about our case. We're hoping to get this Noam Chomsky video that we've had for 8 months sitting where Noam Chomsky talks about the case as well. We put it up on our website. We have a lot of people working on our case. Vanessa Redgrave has shown her support, David Strathan. So we've gotten, we have 3 private lawyers working on our team. The government has endless resources. What we have, I think, are motivated people that see the inherent injustice in what's going on with my brother. And you have to stand up to this type of treatment because, as Deepa said, well, it goes to one segment of the community, it moves to the other segment of the community. Because at the end of the day, it's all about beliefs and values. My brother's case has absolutely nothing to do with ponchos and socks. It has nothing to do with ponchos and socks. That's the farthest. The U.S. government putting so many FBI agents, the U.S. Attorney's Office, so much manpower to produce a report, to do all these things. You're keeping him housed, right? I would say it's more than $1 million, more than $2 million, more than $3 million. They're not doing it because ponchos and socks were needed by Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. Really? Ponchos and socks were needed to fight the insurgency? Right? If you think about it, really? It has everything to do with criminalizing behavior and thoughts and values. We hold a certain set of values. We believe them. We are not the misanthropic, misogynist monsters that we're made out to be. This is the reality. Many of you people know Muslims. We're not. But we do have strong and firm beliefs on what our value system is. And we do have strong and firm beliefs about the oppression of our people. Well, it is to stigmatize our people and to, put them in a state of fear to say, well, if in this community in Flushing in New York, Fahad is an example, this is what's going to happen to you if you had stood up for yourself. Well, communities, you don't know the case of Ahmed Abu Ali or Imam Yassin Aref or Omar Hayat in Lodi, California, or Adnan Babar Mirza, but these are cases to know of. These are part of the rampant mistreatment of Muslims throughout the U.S. So with that said, a couple of final points. I'd like to thank everybody here. We're also holding an event at the Brecht Forum on December 15th. If you go to the Brecht Forum website, we're going to have Shane Caridal from the Center for Constitutional Rights. He's head of the Guantanamo Project over there. Professor Jean Thea Harris and myself will be speaking at the Brecht Forum. For us internally, we found that we had very little support within the Muslim organizations. We formed a group called the Muslim Justice Initiative, which deals with this case and tries to shine a light on the general policy and the general state of affairs that are affecting Muslims throughout America. And his trial starts on January 6th. So I encourage everybody to come and witness what's going on in his trial. We've lost every single motion for my brother, every single one. Not that they were bad motions. The judge made her decision right away. What are the motions? No, we can't give him a radio. No, we can't give him a radio. Solitary confinement. Well, I think solitary confinement is okay because the government said it's okay. It's about dehumanizing a person, and the prosecution and the judge. If you go to the court, if you go to if you have ever been to our hearings, I think John has been to our hearings, you'll find that the judge speaks more than the prosecution on behalf of the prosecution. Do you want to see American justice? The Judge Loretta Preska, she is the head judge of the Southern District of New York. She's going to be in charge of the Guantanamo detainees when they come here. What is closing Guantanamo? What is the difference? In Guantanamo, you're allowed to speak out loud between cells. You're not allowed to speak out loud in the MCC New York. So this is a hypocrisy. This is a facade that is constantly perpetuated, thinking, America has a way of absolving itself. Well, we'll close this place here, but they don't realize what else has happened and what's going on right now. Because Guantanamo is not about a place, it's about a mindset. And this current administration is one of the absolute worst things that could happen. Why? Because they're so eloquent. They're so, I listen to these speeches like, wow, let me be clear, I'm like, this guy's so helpful, He goes to Cairo in one of the most oppressive regimes and tells the Muslim people he wants to be helpful, right? Let me be clear. Let me be clear. This person and this administration is not helpful, and it has not done nothing. If you ask the Center for Constitutional Rights, they will say they took the same position as the previous administration. They're just better at expressing themselves. They don't sound like cowboys, They sound like Harvard-educated, University of Chicago law professors, right? So what is the law? What is this sophistry? It is a facade. It's a constantly perpetuating hypocrisy that we are living with in America. And for the people out there, take a stand against it. Come bear witness to what's going on. Again, my brother's case is not about ponchos and socks. It is all about expression and who has the right to do it. And certain groups of people don't have the right to do it.
As a believing Muslim, and this event was not about what the ideas per se are about Islam, because that's a whole different lecture and it requires a lot of topics. I don't think it, for me, I believe in it. I think it's, I believe in my prophet, and I believe in the fundamentals of it. The question really is about injustice, right?
Right. And
about having beliefs and values. And, whatever values and beliefs you hold should not be exposed to this type of injustice that's happening to my brother. Because what's happening to my brother is rampant throughout the Muslim community. And it's rampant to religious Muslims, for the most part. The people that you see, they get arrested, have beards, are practicing Muslims, and are facing a type of injustice unheard of. They didn't put the people in the Nuremberg trials of solitary confinement like this. Right? Right? There's 200,000 federal prisoners. 42 of them are under SANS. Well, my brother is one of them. Ponchos and socks. And he's under the solitary confinement. So the case is clear-cut against this oppression. And please attend the vigil. We have, I think it's a pretty informative vigil every Monday night. And really come to the trial. See for yourself, observe for yourself how this facade is carried out, how this hypocrisy gets perpetuated. John comes, if you don't want to believe me about what's going on, about the prosecutor shutting up and the judge talking, you can talk to John all you want.
True.
So, again, thank you.
Nasty things that Bush or Cheney used to say. So the journalists are pulled off the story of the mistreatment of prisoners. But actually, they're still being mistreated.
We're gathered here across the street from the Metropolitan Correctional Center, where Fahad Hashmi is being held in solitary confinement. Some of you know about the case, however many do not. This is in large part because of media silence around the issue.
I first heard about it through the article in The Nation, which I read, and then the organizers at Thaw got in touch to say that they too had read the article and were horrified and thought that because it is free speech issue. It's an important thing for all citizens to address, but particularly for people in the theater to address.
I'm here tonight because I got a call from Thaw. A lot of my friends work with theater artists opposed to war. It's kind of quaint and quixotic name, but it's an outfit that's done a lot of different actions. I'm embarrassed to say I did not know anything about Fahad Hashmi's case before my friend Kathy Chalfant, of theater artists opposed to war, gave me a call. And once I read about it, I said I would like to do any small or large thing that I could.
Solitary confinement can drive people insane. It's a form of torture. To put someone in solitary confinement for over 2 years is a very extreme punishment.
The reason he's being kept in solitary confinement, as far as I can gather, is not so much to make him give up evidence, but to keep him from talking.
Under which he's being held, and the special administrative measures in place prevent him from seeing the evidence against him, hindering his ability to participate in his own defense, and severely restricting his constitutional right to a fair trial. We hope that our broadcasts each Monday help break the media silence around Fahad's case and others like his, and help to galvanize public outcry as his trial approaches.
A lot of lawyers have weighed in on this case, but not a lot of media. Here's Michael Ratner from CCR, and then I want to ask all of you, where have the journalists been on this story?
What's going on here? Is this the best they can do and call this a terrorist case? And it makes you question the entire motives of the prosecution and whether or not there isn't something else going on here and something else going on in Fahad's case. Fahad is a strong spokesperson. He's an activist on Islamic issues. And so what it makes you think, the first thing is, are they targeting this guy because he's a Muslim, because he's a strong spokesperson, because he wasn't actually born in the United States as a U.S. citizen, because of who his friends are? But what you can almost for sure say is they're not targeting him because he was in any way involved in an act of terrorism or aiding and abetting terrorism or knowingly having anything to do with terrorism.
We will be here